What is up, Star Wars fans? This is Darth Watts, and in this video, as you guys should know by now, it has been major news for Star Wars the past few days, and it looks like Dave Filoni is taking over as head of Lucasfilm, taking Kathleen Kennedy's spot. So this is good news for one side of the Star Wars fandom, and then there's the other side of the Star Wars fandom that is pretty upset about this news. But here's the thing. As long as we have Dave Filoni as head of Lucasfilm, we're still going to get George Lucas inspired content, like George Lucas inspired content for Star Wars projects going forward. We already have a lot of inspiration from George Lucas with the Mandalorian series, as far as the Imperial Warlords, as was described in the Star Wars Archives book from 1999 to 2005, where there's Imperial Warlords and has Maul and Talon being the main villains of Lucas's version of the sequel trilogy. And on top of that, we have Maul Shadow Lord, which will show Maul being the godfather of crime, but much earlier in the timeline. But it's an idea that was taken out from George Lucas's earlier plans for the sequel trilogy, as was written in the Star Wars Archives book from 1999 to 2005. So, and we're also going to get some ideas pulled from the expanded universe. The expanded universe was never really canon to begin with, and Dave Filoni has actually confirmed that in an interview, and there's been multiple evidence that suggest otherwise. What some people are saying, that Legends was canon at one point, which it was never canon. George Lucas never approved of Luke Skywalker marrying Myra Jade. George Lucas never approved of the Emperor coming back. And we have stories in the sequel trilogy, like The Rise of Skywalker, where Palpatine returns. And we have Dark Empire, where Palpatine returns as well, 10 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. So we have both in Legends and in canon of Palpatine coming back from the dead, which is something that George Lucas was not a fan of. And Ian McDiarmid has said that he speculated on how Palpatine would return, but then George Lucas said no, he's dead. So George Lucas was not a fan of Palpatine returning, or Luke Skywalker marrying Myra Jade, or Luke Skywalker, or Luke Skywalker. Basically, the whole concept of Luke Skywalker that was in Legends was not exactly what George Lucas would have done with the character at all. So, Legends was never really canon to begin with, but there are some people out there that will not let go of the fact that Star Wars Legends was never canon, and then will try to convince people like me, who are speaking the truth and saying that Legends was never canon, which is the truth. George Lucas is not a supporter of Mara Jade, and Dave Filoni has even said in an interview that when he was working on Star Wars, it was only the films and the Clone Wars series that was canon. But enough talk about the expanded universe. I already have a plan where I'm going to be debunking every point that people are presenting to me about the expanded universe ever being considered canon, because those people who are trying to convince me are dead wrong. So stay tuned for that video. So back to about Dave Filoni taking over as Lucasfilm, taking over as head of Lucasfilm. So Dave Filoni is taking over as head of Lucasfilm. As long as we have Dave Filoni in Star Wars, we'll still have George Lucas inspiration with Star Wars projects going forward. So we have The Mandalorian and Grogu coming up. We have Maul Shadow Lord series, and then possibly season 4 at some point. And I think now with Dave Filoni as head of Lucasfilm, season 4 is more likely to happen for The Mandalorian series. But anyways, that's all I have to say for this video. Do make sure to smash a like, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you all later in another video.